On March 16, 2026, Pope Leo XIV held a private meeting inside the Vatican that broke every rule of Roman diplomacy. He sat down with Gareth Gore, an investigative journalist who had just published an exposé on decades of alleged abuses within Opus Dei. Sitting with a harsh critic was a calculated risk. It signaled that the Pope was willing to collaborate with outside investigators to scrutinize the Church's most powerful and profitable subsidiary. For decades, Opus Dei operated as a personal prelature. Granted in 1982, it made them the Church's only diocese without borders. This status allowed them to amass immense financial power and operate elite institutions, answering exclusively to the Pope while bypassing local bishops. But reining in a loyal organization of 90,000 members and billions in assets is a delicate maneuver. One wrong move could trigger a public schism that the Vatican has spent years trying to avoid. In 2022, Pope Francis initiated a strategy to break this institutional deadlock. He issued a legal decree that stripped the leader of Opus Dei of his title as bishop and moved the organization under the oversight of the Vatican Department for Ordinary Clergy. The change told the organization they were no longer a parallel hierarchy. In the eyes of the Vatican, they were now simply an association of priests. This was the first step in a broader effort to dismantle the legal framework that had guaranteed Opus Dei's independence for 40 years. Following the death of Pope Francis in 2025, Opus Dei leadership attempted to delay further reforms, hoping a new, more sympathetic pope would drop the matter. They were met instead with Pope Leo XIV, a canon lawyer by training. Leo made it clear he intended to enforce the restrictions his predecessor had put in place. Leo XIV demanded the organization submit their new governing statutes for approval, then immediately placed the document under study. He effectively locked their legal identity in a bureaucratic freezer. This limbo leaves the organization without an approved legal structure. Without a Vatican-endorsed mandate, directors can no longer demand absolute obedience or financial surrender from members. This is a strategy of attrition. By maintaining this legal void, the Vatican is eroding the organization's internal authority while avoiding an open, explosive conflict. As the legal battle stalled in Rome, the organization's massive global structure began to rot from the outside. Territorial control was the first to slip. In Spain, a local bishop successfully challenged the organization's claim to the Torre Ciudad sanctuary, proving their physical assets were no longer untouchable. Meanwhile, the organization faced a demographic crisis. Recruit numbers dropped as the core celibate members reached retirement age, leaving the leadership with a shrinking, aging workforce. In December 2025, a summit in Buenos Aires revealed the testimonies of 43 women who alleged they were recruited as minors and then subjected to decades of unpaid domestic servitude inside Opus Dei centers. Pope Leo XIV used the weight of these public scandals to increase pressure on the leadership in Rome, effectively stripping them of their moral defense. By focusing entirely on their legal autonomy in the Vatican, the organization failed to address the real-world scandals and demographic shifts that were outflanking their empire. With the organization now financially strained and morally compromised, the Vatican has moved toward a final resolution, the Three Branches Plan. First, priests enter a clerical association under direct Vatican control. Second, the celibate elite are reclassified as a religious institute, adopting standard labor and psychological protections. Finally, married members are returned to their local bishops, effectively cutting the funding pipeline supporting the entire global network. By dividing the organization into 3 separate jurisdictions, the Vatican can dismantle the church within a church without excommunicating its members. The unique independence that once defined Opus Dei became the specific vulnerability the Vatican used to bring the organization under ordinary church law.